They were still a little old spacey in that way, but they were much closer to the mindset that SpaceX came in. Very scrappy company. They were figuring out what they needed to do to have cargo up onto the ISS, and they've built a vehicle in Cygnus that is going to be extended out to the Gateway as well. So, you know, if all goes well in 5 years or whatever the timeline is, SpaceX is going to be sending Dragon XL out to Gateway that has a habitation module built on Cygnus, and it's a direct line from commercial cargo through to commercial crew through to Gateway. And you have to imagine that would continue to, you know, at some point, once the SLS Orion thing is kind of sorted out, there's going to be some sort of commercial crew extension out towards Gateway as well if their grand plans work. So it's easy to think that these are total islands, but when you realize how much of a through line there is, it's really impressive to see these companies come on, to be trusted like they are, and it just really turns out to be quite an investment by NASA.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks like we got Jim Bridenstine and Elon speaking on the NASA feed. I don't know if that's something that we can pipe in here if you wanted to see what they're saying. We probably know what they're saying at this point, but...
yeah, I don't know if Andrew can pipe that in, but I can kind of hear it here. Let's see what they're talking about. These socially distant interviews are just bizarre, man.
It's really a sign of the times, but...
They look so awkward. I can't handle it.
Seeing them in the suit-up room was pretty cool, though. You know,
yeah.
that's one that you see these pictures in history of administrators gone by, and, you know, astronauts gone by, programs gone by, and they stick in your memory. And that one being so... it's so easy to tell what era that was taken in because of the face mask and the distancing, and
yeah,
I feel like that's one that's going to age well? Question mark.
Yeah, and I really like to, like both Jim and Elon are both. They share this trait of being, you know, highly successful professionals in their industry, but also like just space geeks. And you could tell that they were just like, this is why I took this job, right? Like they were just like, yeah. I'm meeting some astronauts that I'm sending to space today, and that's so awesome.
Sounds like we're getting a lot of the same from our boy
the Jim
JP,
Bridenstine stump speech. Say it. Say it. I've got my Jim Bridenstine fan club pin on here. Feeling very, very proud right now. Yeah, I'm not sure if the stream can hear the audio or not. It might just be us sitting here being quiet.
Could be. Seems like they seem pretty happy over in the chat there.
I expected 90% chance we'd be able to even get to a low Earth orbit with small rocket. So somebody told me in 2002 that I'd be standing here with the NASA administrator, meeting the astronauts, and those...
Actually, I don't think they can hear the audio, so...
All right. We'll keep talking.
Well, there's nothing breaking, we'll tell you that much. It's
yeah, I know.
This is... A lot of this is... Oh, maybe they can hear now.
like, no way. No way is that true. You know, and so it is... Say it's even a dream come true. I didn't even dream that this would come true. Let me put it that way. But it is... I am incredibly excited to do this.
They're saying the volume should be higher there, Andrew.
And as Jim said, this really is the culmination of an incredible amount of work by the SpaceX team, by NASA, and by a number of other partners in the process of making this happen. Really, you can look at this as the results of 100,000 people roughly when you add up all this by everyone working incredibly hard to make this happen. So it's really hard to believe that this is real.
All right, so it sounds like you guys can't quite hear what's coming through the feed there, but so we'll go back. But you're not missing much. It's
no. I think one thing important to put around that, you know, these kind of press events, and even a lot of the communication you'll hear in the next day or two, this is talking to such a wide audience, because this mission is going to have visibility much higher than a typical SpaceX mission, even a typical mission to the ISS for SpaceX. This is going to be front of the national news. So, you know, if you've been really tuned in to all this, if you've been watching Tim's streams or listening to our podcast for a long time, you might not hear a lot new in these kind of things, but you got to think about who they're talking to. They're talking to the general audience that's tuning in because they heard about it from their local news station. And that's the kind of thing that you only get when there's people on top to some extent. And that's, Jake, we talk about that all the time, like why send humans to space? And this kind of human interest thing is a huge reason for it.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, Tim's on a bit of a break right now. He asked us to step in and help out with a little bit of the feed today because he's pretty tired. He had a long night editing his sweet interview with Jim Bridenstine and Elon Musk that was posted this morning. So Anthony, you just talked about why put humans in space, and actually I have a kind of a question I want to pose to you about commercial crew as we're heading towards this launch. Why bother with this? Like, why develop a new spacecraft? I've heard a lot of people quote that this is saving money. Like the Russians charge $90 million for a seat, and this, SpaceX is like $50 million for a seat. So we're saving a bunch of money, but they had to spend billions of dollars to do that. So I don't know if that's the right framing to do that. Can you give us a little bit of your take on why doing this?
Yeah, there definitely, it goes a lot back to what I was saying about seeing these as investments, not necessarily buying a straight up service to the space station. There is some sort of intangible value that you get by having access to your own space station with your own vehicles that you funded and you to some extent control. So for NASA and the other partners on the US orbital segment of the ISS, this is a really big deal to be able to get this new service, because not only is it matching what you can get out of Soyuz, right? That's a conversation here a lot. Well, why make a new one when Soyuz can do it? We now have the ability to send a ton of people up to the ISS every given year. And this is going to really substantially upgrade the crew time available on the ISS. Right now, we kind of have these small crews of 3, maybe 6 people every once in a while. But the space station takes a ton of resources to keep going. It's a ship. It needs maintenance. It needs things fixed. There's a lot of time that you spend up there just keeping the space station flying, and not a lot of time spent really doing scientific research, or other things that we want to be doing up on the ISS. So when you add this commercial crew services, SpaceX in August right now, if today goes well, the last day of August I think it was, is going to send up 4 astronauts to the ISS for a full crew rotation. That is equal to, if not more than, the amount of US, ESA, JAXA, and Canadian astronauts that have been on the ISS each year for the last 5 years or so. So the jump in the amount of people that we're going to have in space each year is huge, and that can't be missed in that kind of conversation.
Yeah, and I read Scott Kelly's book about his year on the space station, and he talked a lot about maintenance time. Like you said, they spent so much time fixing the station. So the productivity must be a target that's certainly in their sights when they're thinking about a commercial crew, right? Yeah,
and it's also really important, given the fact that we are dealing with, we've seen a lot of Soyuz issues recently.
Yeah.
If any one of those was a bigger issue, if there was a design issue that caused them to take a year off of Soyuz launches, which is not uncommon, especially in human spaceflight. I mean, the shuttle twice had really big accidents that led to 1.5 year, 2.5 year downtimes. So you want to have redundancy to some extent. So even if it was just matching what Soyuz and not providing the other benefits that we talked about, that's a thing that I would consider a must if you're going to run a sufficiently advanced space station like this. You've got to have redundancy to be able to deal with any issues that arise in the program.
Yeah, and I don't want to be like the guy that says NASA's hiding something, but I really wonder what kind of corners they had to cut to approve continued flights on the Soyuz when there was all those problems, because it was their only option,
Certainly. And we see that with the Starliner incident that happened at the end of last year. Like, look at how long that's going to be down for now, because they had some incidents on their uncrewed test flight that could have led to a bad scenario. I don't know that some of those Soyuz issues were any worse or any better.
That's where it's like they set the clock wrong, and so there's a year delay on the mission, but you drill a hole in the side of a Soyuz and it's fine, just fly again the next flight
and then you have an in-flight abort and you just keep flying.
And you just keep flying, right,
Yeah, so there's definitely the investment, it's a big upfront investment, and maybe your per seat price kind of shakes out over time. But it's hard to say, as a country that's so invested in the space station as it is, and the programs that we're saying here, this is tied to all the different programs that NASA's working on. It's hard to not see this as a good investment, especially when you've seen what it does to the industry. And then moving forward, things are different now. Today we enter a new era of low Earth orbit. and spaceflight generally.
Yeah, that's very well said. Yeah. So, do we want to pour one out for all the spacecraft that never made it to the pad, like Dragon did? Do you have a favorite, Anthony? I have a favorite. So.
Oh, you go first then. That's while I think about it.
Okay, so there was actually a company. I'm trying to look back. One of the commercial crew contracts. Let's see if I can look it up. It was an unfunded proposal, but it was selected as part of CCDev 2, and it was Excalibur Almaz.
This is the one. Isn't this based on a crazy Soviet system that existed back in the day?
Yes, it's the Soviet TKS spacecraft, which was like this bizarre, like they took the FGB, I think it was called. It was like basically the Salyut station, the same thing as Zarya, that kind of model, and then like stuck a capsule to the top of it, and then flew it on a Proton. But the docking port was on the bottom. And so you had to like go through the heat shield into the
hole in the heat shield.
Yeah, into like the space station part of the ship, and then dock. So it docked backwards, basically. Super bizarre design.
I could not even believe that ever existed.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
I'm glad NASA didn't give them money, but I'm confused as to why they selected it.
I mean, the interesting one is the Blue Origin proposal.
Yeah.
They had this capsule that was kind of biconic, so it was like a cylinder with a little bit of a rounded cone on the front. And if they had won access to the commercial crew program and built that spacecraft, I think where they're at today would have been entirely different. You know, they're doubling down on lunar landers and a big launch vehicle because they aren't part of the commercial crew program, and their focus is elsewhere. And it sort of seems like maybe they have more plans internally than we know about, but certainly seems like they're going to focus on things that SpaceX and others aren't doing, like crewed spacecraft, and try to augment the capabilities until they have enough built up of their own that they can have, you know, a fully featured space program at their own right if Jeff Bezos gets his way in the end.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to what we were saying before too about how all these programs are kind of on ramps for these different companies, and I really like how they take them in different directions like that. I mean, SpaceX really benefited, I think, most in terms of the Falcon 9 development on these programs. Dragon's great, but like Falcon 9 was really that's the gem you take away from that. Whereas Orbital Sciences, Northrop Grumman today, Cygnus is what they really, that's what they're developing and innovating with today. They're not doing anything with Antares, right? And so now talking about Blue Origin, didn't get into this program. They're going to go on to the lander program, which is structured similarly. Sierra Nevada is probably going to do some really interesting stuff with it. I kind of like how it's just very diverse and everyone can kind of do whatever they want to do with it.
Yeah, it's the other thing that is that you mentioned about Falcon 9 kind of being the thing that came out of this program for SpaceX. It might not have been like that. You know, they had plans with Cargo Dragon back in the day to fly what they called Dragon Lab missions, where somebody would buy out a full flight of Dragon, send up kind of like a short-term space station, send up an experiment or something that just needed that volume in space. That never really panned out. But on the crew side, they really are banking on selling crew missions to people that aren't NASA. And it already sounds like they have some deals with Axiom Space, who's going to be putting up their own module on the space station. Certainly sounds like Tom Cruise is going to be heading up to the ISS on a Dragon capsule at some point. So I'm interested to see how much they sell to non-NASA members out there, because I think that'll be a real pivotal moment for Dragon 2 if they are really turning this into a crew transportation service that they're offering widely and not just to the single customer here. That would be a significant step and a significant new thing in the world of spaceflight. Nobody's really done that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's kind of cool the way they structured it too. So that's a way that SpaceX used this contract to their benefit, because the NASA contract stipulates fresh, shiny new Dragons for every flight, right? But SpaceX built them reusable, so now they're able to leverage all the stuff that NASA paid for and make a whole new business out of it, which is just like, it's genius, right?
Yeah, and they say right now that they're going to reuse the Dragon 2s that fly this mission for cargo to the ISS or something like that. My guess is that they will, only if somebody doesn't buy a crew flight. And if somebody buys a crew flight, they're going to slot one of these reused vehicles.
Well, yeah, why take the seats out if you don't have to?
Exactly, right? Yeah, you might as well keep it on ice, and if you need it for cargo, great, but if not, just keep it as a crew version and sell that sucker. Because you also, SpaceX kind of has this model for reusable boosters as well. they land those boosters and they sell them as part of other flights. And that's really paying off the investment it took to make that booster. And the same goes for crew flights. If they can fly 2 or 3 flights with crew on a single vehicle, they're going to make more money off of that single vehicle than they would otherwise.
Totally, yeah. So, looks like we have the hatch closed.
Hatch is closed, and they've got those screens. Look how close they pulled them up to their face.
That's way different than the pokey stick for Soyuz, hey?
Yeah, right? I didn't know that Doug wears glasses. He's got glasses on in the cockpit. Did not know that. Will
Maybe
he keep
takes
those
them
on?
off. Yeah, I don't know.
I was wondering. Maybe do you think that he has a prescription visor?
I don't know. You don't want that falling
I don't think
off
they
in the
make
middle of the flight, right? I guess if it's like stuck to your face and you're accelerating, it's probably not going to go anywhere. But
well, I'm thinking, what if they put like little bifocals in the actual visor, though? It's a nice upgrade. Maybe they should consider it for the future. I don't know. How do you feel about the closeout crew suits that SpaceX has going here? The ninja suit.
I kind of like them.
Yeah, you're into that?
Yeah, it's like, it's interesting and different, you know?
I have questions about the hoods. I have several questions about
how much of the hood
so
is
many
just
buttons
like
on the hoods.
Yeah, how much of that is like just regular clean room stuff, and how much of it is COVID-19 stuff? I wonder.
Always a good. Always a good point.
Yeah.
I would buy one of those jackets for sure, though. If
Yeah,
that was available. Certainly.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick check of where we're at on the rundown here, because let's see. Dragon receives ISS location is coming up pretty soon. That's the next milestone, and then we're still T-minus 45 for the no-go go call on fueling, and that'll be the big moment. Not sure too much has changed on the weather front, but
Yeah.
You think it's going to go to Jake today or what?
I don't know, man. It's like super dicey out there, but that's how it goes, man. If we have to do this all again on Saturday, I'm good with that too.
Yeah. So as this mission gets underway, we should mention again, thank you so much to Tim for having us come on and join the stream for a little bit. Thanks to Andrew for producing this stuff, because I know just from what I'm seeing on my end, there's a lot going on. So everybody should be very thankful of whatever battle station Andrew's got running today.
Yeah.
I know we are, and certainly happy to have the opportunity. But Jake, I was wondering, just give a quick shout out to We Martians, because this that we're watching today, Commercial Crew, has major implications for the stuff that you're tracking.
Yeah, it's like kind of the long-term play, the long game for me as a Mars exploration aficionado. But yeah, I'm doing lots of stuff this summer for the Mars 2020 launch and all the other missions going to Mars this year. So tons of good content coming up. I've been really excited about it. And then, yeah, hopefully this Dragon 2 stuff feeds forward deep space exploration for humans. That's where my heart is. And I can't wait to see where it's going. What are you doing with main engine cutoff? You got some good stuff happening lately too, right?
Yeah, one of the storylines out of this is specifically not only just Commercial Crew, but as we were talking about, Axiom Space bought some of these flights. They have agreements for it. I had a couple of members from Axiom Space on my show before, talking about their plans and the plans that they're going to, expand the space station quite dramatically. And it's hard to get to that future that they're imagining without Dragon 2 or something similar taking shape and really becoming a major player in the space industry at large in terms of flying people to space. So, all the plans that I'm excited about, they hinge on today. So it's just like so pivotal. It's hard to understate how pivotal this is to everything interesting that's going on in space. So I can't wait to really, see what happens today. I'm hoping that it goes off today, but if it's the weekend, that's cool too.
So you can find Anthony's podcast at mainenginecutoff.com. It's really great. You guys should definitely listen to it. Anthony has a spot-on analysis of the industry, the launch sector, satellites. Anthony, I always depend on you to keep my head straight when I get panicky about stuff. You're very cool-headed, and I really appreciate it. So subscribe to his show.
I bank on Tim for keeping me optimistic, because he was on the show talking about Starship. We made some timeline predictions. I was pessimistic. He was optimistic. It seems like it's turning out in the middle, so we all bounce off each other in interesting ways. But Jake, you're at wemartians.com, and what can we find there?
Mars stuff all the time. There's a big interview coming up next week, so yeah, it's an exciting one about rockets. You guys love rockets, so it's a good one for that. And then if you want to hear something a little more casual, the two of us get together once a month. We crack a beer for the Off Nominal podcast, which you can see on my shirt here. Bumping the mic, sorry. It's a lot of fun. We stream on Twitch. It's goofy and yeah, I love it. So Check it out
we'll
at
be over on
offnominal.space.
twitch.tv/offnominal. We'll be hanging out for the launch and after the launch, so if Tim finally takes a nap and wraps up here, head over there, because we'll be hanging out tonight after the launch as well. But until then, thank you all so much for having us on. Thanks to Tim and Andrew again for having us here. And go SpaceX.
Go SpaceX.
and I don't really have a team. I'm having to set up some cameras and stuff in between. So they're giving me the opportunity to go set up stuff, take a little quick break, go to the bathroom, do things like that. So thank you for your patience and hopefully you're enjoying my carefully selected group of people to help me with this launch today. These are some of my good friends and the people that I watch and listen to. So I trust them with my stream. So thank you guys for tuning in. Just a quick recap here before we get in. I'm going to bring on my next guest while I finish up my other camera, and that is Emily Calandrelli. Now, Emily Calandrelli is a Emmy-nominated host. This is like a legit host, so she's going to be putting me to shame. I'm going to feel like a real idiot. She is absolutely brilliant. She is an actual aerospace engineer. I am not. So when she talks about stuff, she knows what she's talking about. She is phenomenal. She's been all over the place. She has a show on Fox called Exploration Space, and she is just absolutely incredible. So when she comes on here, show her a lot of respect and know that she is an incredible person, and show her some love. Find her on Twitter and on all the social media. She's really doing a lot of cool stuff on YouTube and TikTok lately too. So if that's your thing, I think YouTube definitely is your thing. If you're here with me, say hi to her for me. We are definitely, so a quick recap though of what we're doing before I send it off to Emily. Weather's back as a major concern today. So that is the big reason why we're worried. So I am right out here outside of the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy Space Center. I'm 3 miles away from the rocket. We do have another camera, but I think it died. I don't know. We're running. It's raining. It's like horrible weather. We had a tornado warning a second ago. We are just like in half panic state, but we're still going. At least I'm half panicked. They're probably cool as a cucumber up there because they have already ingressed and been buckled up into the Dragon capsule. So the next big thing, once the crew leaves, we are at the pad crew is starting to leave right now as we speak. They're doing some communication checks and stuff like that. And then there'll be another weather briefing internal with mission control. And then that will be at T-minus 45 minutes, as you see on your screen there. That will be the go, no-go poll. So that'll basically tell us whether or not we're going to see a launch today. If we get a go, that means everything's currently go for the launch. But there is a chance that they are going pending weather. So what they'll do is they'll say, like, we're not actually go right now at this second, but we're still going to continue with the launch ops and get them all the way down to T-minus 0. They could basically go to like T-minus 3 and abort right before, well, not abort, they would scrub right before, just basically right before taking off. But again, they don't really want to put that crew through that risk. You know, they don't want to, it is risky once you start pressurizing propellant. That is a quantifiable risk. And of course, they're trying to do everything as safe as humanly possible. So we're definitely, you know, if weather is just looking like a straight up no-go at all, you know, a lot of the storm system that just came through here is now moving out over where they're going to be launching, basically. So they're playing it nice and conservative, of course. If they don't have to fuel up knowing that they're going to scrub today, we will not see a launch today. But again, we will know for sure at T-minus 45 minutes. So we're just kind of hanging out, waiting until then. And right now, like I said, we're at about T-minus an hour and 45 minutes. So in about an hour, we will know for sure. I am seeing Air Force One out my windshield. No way. Look at this, guys. This is crazy. Air Force One is currently flying over. I got to see if I can get that on my Tesla. Where's the sentry mode? Get out of here. Hang on, that is crazy. Air Force One just flew directly over the pad, and I don't have a good shot of it at all for you guys. I am sorry about that. That's why I'm not a photographer anymore. That was nuts. A low flyover directly over the launch pad. I've never seen a 747 buzz a rocket before, but a 747 just buzzed a Falcon 9 rocket. That was bonkers. What? I didn't know that was going to happen. Did either of you guys get that? I've never seen a 747 buzz a rocket before. That was buzzing the tower there. Wow. Okay, so now that that excitement's over, that was crazy. So now that the excitement's over for that, like I said, they basically have another hour before we know for sure if they're go or no go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it off to my friend Emily Calandrelli. Again, find her all over online. Emmy-nominated host, actual aerospace engineer, brilliant human being, good friend of mine. Please welcome her with warm welcome. I'm going to try and set up another camera and take this time to try to get that all going. But at this point, I have no idea what's going to happen. So wish me luck. All right, this might be an awkward transition because we're having problems with the producer. Not the producer, Andrew, but our unit. So here you go. Off to you, Emily, or a break or something. Cameras, and it's just not me dropping out like crazy. Maybe she's on her way. Hey, this is an improvement. You guys know this. You've seen my streams before. This is a big improvement. The fact that I'm able to at least be awkward instead of like off camera. There's Emily. Okay, I'll let Emily have it. I'm gonna wrap up. I'll be back.
So just jealousy everywhere that's happening. And so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Emily Calandrelli. On the interwebs, I am known as the Space Gal. So you can find me at the Space Gal on all of those platforms. And, you know, today's a big day. I think that people who are watching this very well know why it's so important. But, you know, there's two main reasons here. This is the first human launch to the ISS from U.S. soil in nearly a decade. Like, this has been a long time coming, and this is probably the biggest space event that has happened in a decade. Like, that's why today is so important. And the second reason is that this is the first crewed mission to orbit from a private spacecraft. And so this is like kickstarting for NASA an entirely new way to do business. And of course, because we haven't been launching humans to the ISS from US soil for the last decade, that means that we have been having to pay somebody else to do that. Because we've been going to the International Space Station over the course of the last decade. We've just had to pay the Russians to send our astronauts back and forth to the tune of like $86 million a seat, to the tune of maybe around $4 billion to the Russians. And so us being able to bring that money back home to companies like SpaceX, like these homegrown solutions, that's just an incredibly big deal. And it wasn't always a very popular idea, because right now, like, we're all rallying around, we're all excited, we're all cheering. But what I find really fascinating is that this wasn't always a popular idea. There was this assumption that maybe private companies, it would be riskier to send humans to space with private companies than it would be with NASA. Now, the interesting thing here is NASA's always worked with private companies to build spaceships and rockets to send humans into space. They've always contracted that out. But the way that they're doing that is uniquely different now. Before, they would handle everything from soup to nuts. They'd handle the design, the production, the management, the operation. Now they're shifting so much of that responsibility over to the private sector, to companies like SpaceX. And so that SpaceX and private companies can do what they do best, which is innovate and fail and iterate and innovate and do that over and over and over again, so they can do that faster and cheaper than the government. And, you know, the assumption that it would be riskier to have private companies send humans into space is based on the assumption that there's less of an incentive for private companies to factor in safety, right? That they would maybe take shortcuts to make things cheaper. But I think that assumption is incredibly faulty, because if a government-run vehicle loses lives, for example, they don't lose their jobs. We saw that with the space shuttle program. They had, you know, big catastrophic failures, but the government recognizes that those things can happen with a risky business like the space industry, and they didn't lose their jobs. If a private company loses lives on their spacecraft, I mean, that's game over. They lose their business. It's their business on the line. And of course, this theory, this hypothesis will be tested today. That's why today is such a big deal, because it is testing this hypothesis that we can hand the keys to low Earth orbit over to the private sector so they can do this cheaper and better than the government. And of course, we were paying $86 million a seat with the Russians, and now with SpaceX at least, the cost per seat is like $55 million. So it's cheaper, and it's going to companies here in the United States, which is great. One other big question that I'm often asked is, why did it take so long to get here? There was a 9-year gap between the space shuttle and now. Like, what happened there? And I think it's a mix of three different things. It's a mix of poor planning, not having a suitable replacement for the space shuttle when it retired in 2011. But it's also a mix of, the phrase that's said over and over and over again, space is hard. Because space is hard. So many of the things that are done in this industry, they are pushing the envelope into uncharted territory. They don't know necessarily what they don't know. And when you're doing hard things, there's going to be things that you didn't anticipate. So there's going to be project delays with most projects that you have in this industry. And of course, we saw that with SpaceX and Boeing and this in the Crew program, of course. But in addition to that, because, as I mentioned, people didn't always believe that this was the right way for NASA to go, this program was not sufficiently funded in the beginning. In fact, Charlie Bolden even wrote a letter to Congress, I think in 2015, saying, because you haven't given us the money that we asked for to the level that we needed it, we're going to have to renew our contracts with the Russians and continue to hand over hundreds of millions of dollars to another country instead of bringing that money here, because we're not sufficiently funding this program. So it's a mix of, poor planning, not having a suitable replacement, the fact that space is hard and delays are sometimes just inevitable, and the fact that this program wasn't really sufficiently funded in the beginning. We could have had these flights a bit earlier if it was funded to the level that they had requested it initially. But we're here now, and we're all really excited, and we just really need this flight to go well so that this can just usher in a new era of NASA business. So that's why we're just very, very excited for this. Another thing that I am pretty pumped about is the SpaceX spacesuits. I mean, how slick do the spacesuits look? I was watching the live stream and seeing them get into that Tesla, and I made a joke on Twitter of like, this is the most expensive Tesla commercial I have ever seen, because it's just honestly like very good branding for Tesla. But these spacesuits, in addition to looking slick, they of course have all of the technical functionality that a spacesuit should have. It's got the cooling and communication and hearing protection and flame resistance that you would probably expect. Also, what I find interesting is that the gloves had to be designed to be able to work on a touchscreen, because of course the Crew Dragon has a touchscreen. Like, everything about this program is just so cool and slick. But in addition to that, one of the reasons why they look so slick is, from what I've read, Musk in the early design phase worked with Jose Fernandez, which is this Hollywood costume designer who is behind some of the most iconic superhero costumes like Spider-Man and Thor and Batman. And like, this is the guy who is helping to design at least the aesthetics of the SpaceX spacesuit. So of course, when we see it, it's like, okay, yeah, they look like superheroes, and they're custom designed to each crew member, so everyone has one that like fits them perfectly. And yeah, I think that's really cool. And then the other aspect of that is it looks uniquely different than what we're used to seeing with the space shuttle suits that they wore during launch and landing, those iconic orange suits, lovingly referred to as the, I think, pumpkin suits, right? And so they had that iconic orange because if there were ever to be like an anomaly during launch or landing, and the astronauts had to be retrieved from the blue ocean or somewhere on land, that the astronauts would stick out like a sore thumb. They would be easier to see. Now I'm assuming the technology has improved such that we don't need to rely on the color to be able to find them, so we don't necessarily need that very obnoxious orange color, and instead we have these very slick looking spacesuits. The last thing that I wanted to share with you all is just a few facts about the crew today. Robert Benkin and Douglas Hurley are the fearless leaders who will be riding this private spacecraft to orbit for the first time, which is so cool. But these are actually good friends. They're from the astronaut class of the year 2000. They were at each other's weddings, and this is something that I recently learned. They're actually both married to astronauts themselves. So like all other power couples in the world can just take a seat, because how do you beat that? How do you beat that? And the other really cool thing that I think is meaningful here is that Douglas Hurley piloted the very last flight of the space shuttle in 2011. So this is kind of like a full circle moment here. And that's all I have for you all today. Thank you for letting me pop on here. I'm excited to watch Tim experience this all for us. I'm going to live vicariously through you. And thanks for having me on, and go Dragon.
Seeing if you had problems with the audio, we apologize. We're trying to do our best. Looks like I still probably am not live yet. Andrew, let me know if I am live or if we're just having problems. But let's see. Okay, looks like I am up. So yeah, I apologize. We're definitely having problems with the software that we're using to run all this stuff on the back end. It's having problems with audio. Like, we can't adjust the audio at all, so we're kind of stuck with what we have. But there is a Falcon. What? Hang on, I gotta take a picture of this. A Falcon in front of the Falcon. What are the odds of that? A Falcon with the Falcon. This must be a sign. That's like a full blown. What is that? I think they're like doing that on purpose to try to. Dang. Okay, I think that's a Falcon. Okay, sorry. Bird watching's over. Bird watching with the guy that knows nothing about birds. Andrew, can we pull up the rocket again and put me in the lower third? Because I definitely want to see what's going on there. So, yeah, again, to recap, the weather is the big concern. Oh, first off, thank you to Emily Calandrelli. I'm really sorry that we had audio issues, to her and to all of you guys. We don't have any controls of that at this moment, just at all. Like, the software that we use, it's in the cloud, keeps having errors on that end. So, yeah, we're sorry. And everything's lagging out. We'll try to get it fixed. If this does scrub, we will be talking to the production company that's handling the back end of the service to try to make it better for the next attempt on Saturday if it doesn't go off today. It's really hard to tell at this point if the rocket's going to go off today. The weather is definitely the big concern. Like I said, at T-minus 45 minutes, we will get the final go, no-go poll. As I keep mentioning over and over, they will not go or attempt to go if it's just simply like a 0% chance, or if weather's just too big of an issue, because they don't want to put the crew through the dangerous environment of any other, anything. So right now, at this moment, as you can tell on the side, the crew is up there. The crew is inside the Crew Dragon capsule for the first time, ready to go. Historic launch moment. They are in there. The crew access arm will retract after the go, no-go poll is good. So like you can see here, we do have let's see, I can actually pull up my web browser here. And the next event that we're waiting is at about T-minus 1 hour and 10 minutes. The International Space Station's exact location is loaded up into the guidance navigation on the Falcon 9 and the Dragon capsule, so that it has the perfect exact knowledge of where the International Space Station is to really hone in on that T0 and the exact trajectory. This is all real-time calculations that the vehicle has to be able to do in order to get the astronauts to the International Space Station as perfectly as possible. Nail just a bullseye as far as orbital insertion goes. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff, honestly. Everything's looking, as far as the events today goes, everything's been looking good. I'm happy as a clam, although of course I'm having problems, but I'm 3 miles away, looking at the rocket right now, just exactly 3 miles away, 5 kilometers downrange from the rocket. Well, not downrange. I'm not in the path of the rocket. We are straight west, basically in the parking lot of the press site, and just waiting to hear what's going to happen. Yeah, I'll probably have to just, at this point, we don't have feeds and comms, and I'm just kind of waiting with you guys to know whether or not they're go for launch. So, yeah, just a friendly reminder, I'm here to answer you guys' questions, so let me know what questions you have. I'll try and catch them for whatever reason. Super Chat is not working. The internet's just like down today, I think. This is, we have like COVID issues, we have a pandemic, and then the internet's just, I don't know, having problems. It's like I have internet, but the YouTube Studio app is borking for me. So, yeah, wish me luck. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can get. So I needed to say a thank you to those of you that have been sending me donations and super chats. It means the world to me. I can't even see them. So thank you to you guys for doing that. Especially knowing that I'm not going to really be able to see it. But it really, really, really means a lot to me. You guys are the whole reason. Well, not the whole reason, because frankly, I would be doing this. And I did this for years and years and years just because I love it. But now you guys keep encouraging me and help make me, step up my game to try to bring you guys better coverage every single launch and bring you more and more exclusive stuff, like an interview with Elon Musk and Jim Bridenstine, the administrator of NASA. I really appreciate all the help, guys. It really goes a long ways. So let me know what questions you guys have. We're just here hanging out at this point, waiting for a sign. Like I said, as we know, the weather is just by far the biggest problem. But yeah. Let's see. I would love to be able to read. These are still too fast to read. Yes, it is live. Someone was asking if this is live. The T-minus, if anyone's asking when's it going to launch, we have a T-minus clock literally up there in the orange for you. That is the T-minus countdown to launch. That is a real-time countdown. That is like, follow that. So if you're wondering when's this thing going to launch, has it launched, look at that T-minus clock. If it's negative and counting down to 0, the rocket has not taken off yet. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, let me know. People asking. So I just saw really quickly, someone just simply said electric rocket. And I wanted to take a second and answer why, you'd think Elon Musk with Tesla, an electric car, we're sitting here on a battery pack with wheels on it. You'd think he would want to use electric rockets, right? Why hasn't SpaceX used electric pumps? And let me give you a quick little rundown on just kind of rocket science and how rockets get into space. And there are other companies that use electric pumps. There's the Rutherford engine by Rocket Lab, who's been extremely successful in the small rocket industry, and they're going to be launching from the United States here very soon too. They have 2 launch pads, one in New Zealand and one in the US, and it's a super cool company. But let me tell you, so basically a rocket engine, the more pressure you can get into that combustion chamber, basically the more power you can output. Now the simplest type of rocket engine is just to have a tank, like really high until it's, safely, but as high as you can without making it burst. And then you just open a valve and you let her rip, right? That's the easiest type of rocket engine. That's called a pressure-fed rocket engine. Boop, nice and easy. We see that on like cold gas thrusters. Sometimes reaction control thrusters are just simply literally opening valves, and they do durations of burn. So it's an impulse. They're on or off, and depending on how long they're on or off is how much you're changing your thrust. There's no like throttling them. It's just on off. Beyond that, it makes sense. Like, okay, well, you can't really build a rocket out of that, because if you have a rocket tank, even if it's a composite overwrapped pressure vessel, like a pressurized tank, even if you have that and you're trying to fill that up to a really, really, really high pressure, that's heavy. You don't want to carry all of your fuel in a highly pressurized state. You'd have to have really thick walls on the rocket. The rocket would be so heavy, it's just not mass efficient. So what they do is they make the rocket as thin and lightweight as possible, and they only pressurize it to about 3 times atmospheric pressure, or 3 bar, around 50-ish psi. It's not very much pressure, and that way the walls of the rocket can be nice and thin. But then in order to get it up to the hundreds of bar, hundreds times, basically 100 times more, or up to 100 times more pressure from the fuel tanks into the rocket engines, they pump the fuel into the rocket. And those are called, they're called pumps. They're called pumps. And you pump and you raise the pressure up and you shove all that rocket fuel, liquid oxygen, and your oxidizer and your propellant, or in your fuel, you throw those into the combustion chamber under as high a pressure as you can. Now, an easy way to do that would be to, plug an electric motor into a pump and have the electric motor spin, and you can get pretty darn high pressure out of that, right? And you can actually make a really decent rocket engine using electric pumps. But it's still actually not that efficient, mostly because the energy density of lithium ion is still like probably thousands, like multiple orders of magnitude worse than the energy density of rocket fuel. So what you can do is you can take a little bit of rocket fuel, you can fire up a small rocket engine, and it's really hard because that little rocket engine requires the pump. So you have to get the pump spinning first using like an inert gas or some kind of bootstrapping method to spin up the system. But eventually you end up with a small rocket engine that you point at a turbine, and that turbine gets spinning up, and then that turbine fills up the pumps, right? Or it spins the pumps and powers the pumps using like a mini rocket motor to power the pumps to power the rocket motor. So it's like this whole thing, and that's just called stage combustion. So if you ever hear stage combustion, that's just called is it actually stage combustion if it's open? No, it's not. It's turbo pumps. There you go. Sorry. Again, I have not slept basically at all because I was up editing a video. So yeah, that's a turbo pump system. Now there's a couple different things. There's open cycle, which is where you let the exhaust from that mini rocket engine just spew out the side of the engine, or you can close that cycle and actually take all the exhaust and have it be either fuel rich or oxygen rich and put it into the combustion chamber. Or you can do both and have it as a full flow stage combustion cycle. And that's where you take each pump. You have 2 different pre-burners that spin the turbines. Those are liquid oxygen rich and fuel rich, and then they come together spinning the pumps, both ready to go. You can get really high pressure. That's what SpaceX is using on their next rocket. But this rocket, the Falcon 9 that you're seeing on camera right now, does not use full flow. This is uses the most simple system, which again is the open cycle. The Merlin engine is an open cycle engine. It's very reliable, very simple. It has a gas generator off to the side. So you'll see the black smoke you see on liftoff is mostly because that gas generator has to run very fuel rich. So in other words, they pour a lot of fuel into that little rocket engine to make sure they don't melt the turbine. And so this rocket, the Falcon 9, has 9 Merlin engines. They're all open cycle, but they're extremely high thrust to weight ratio. That engine on the engines on the Falcon 9 rocket are the highest thrust to weight ratio. They're almost 200 to 1 thrust to weight ratio. In other words, they can lift 200 times more than their own weight, which is insane. So yeah, that's how this rocket works. It basically it's just raw horsepower. You want a high amount of thrust on your first stage to fight what's known as gravity loss or gravity drag. And that's, if you think about it, it really makes sense. Say you had a rocket engine full, say you had a rocket full of fuel and you were just taking off really, really slow or even hovering. You're literally just wasting fuel fighting against gravity. So it takes a full G of acceleration or an equal amount of thrust. And you're just spewing out your rocket fuel, you're wasting your rocket fuel, and you're just basically going nowhere, right? So the faster you can actually accelerate, you gain efficiency, because if you say you go from a thrust to weight ratio of 1, you're not going anywhere. If you go up to a 2.0, you gain infinitely more acceleration than just sitting there hovering. Now, if you go from 2 to 3, you're only having to increase, from 2 to 3, so whatever, up 33% or whatever. I'm really bad at fractions like that. I don't know. Go up from 2 to 3, but you actually double the amount of work. So you gain some efficiency, and that's called gravity drag. That's called gravity loss. But yeah, the Falcon 9 really makes a lot of work by having a high thrust to weight ratio, and that's just kind of cool. There's your rocket lesson for the day. That's gravity drag versus in the open cycle, the Merlin engines. So the reason that Elon Musk does not utilize electric pumps on the Falcon 9 or any of his rockets to date is simply because it is less efficient than a simple gas generator. But Rocket Lab makes it work because Rocket Lab isn't caring about the efficiency and maximum performance. Rocket Lab is focused on making the simplest rocket they could build, the simplest, most efficient, or easiest to manufacture, easiest to produce. Don't forget, it costs money to learn how to make a rocket engine. The research and development of building a rocket engine could cost you millions of dollars. If you have a low-risk path to getting something into orbit, you can sacrifice a little bit of performance. If you're hitting your metrics and you're doing it for 3 times faster and 10 times cheaper than your other more traditional places, that's great. Do it. And that's exactly what Rocket Lab did. But Rocket Lab is just trying to make it, get to the first step, do it as quickly and safely as possible. SpaceX is really focused on performance because they took a bigger risk. They had a billionaire, Elon Musk, to be able to risk it on more advanced methods right away and go for performance over the path of least resistance, kind of. So, yeah. So I feel like I should probably remind you guys that the astronauts are on board. That is right. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley are sitting inside the Crew Dragon capsule right there on your screen. You are seeing the Crew Dragon capsule where the astronauts are currently sitting, ready to go to the International Space Station. That is Launch Complex 39A. That is the most historic launch pad ever. That is where every mission to the moon took off from that exact launch pad. And, yeah. Why is everyone talking about my mom? Did my mom super chat? I'm so sorry I can't see the super chats. If so, hi Mom and Dad. I love you guys. Thanks for always encouraging me to chase my dreams. Yeah. Super surreal. We were just looking through pictures a little bit ago, and my mom realized that the first time I went to the Kennedy Space Center, we were on the tour bus. I was 5 years old, and we drove out past that exact launch pad, Launch Complex 39A. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's 39A, but it could have been 39B. Someone tell me. But Hubble was sitting on the pad, and we were staying in a hotel in Cocoa Beach, and we stepped outside and watched the launch. And I mean, like I wasn't even that into it then. I had no idea. That, how old am I? 35 minus 5. 30 years later, I'd be back here 3 miles away watching humans go to space for the first time from the United States in 9 years. So, yeah, it was 39A. Someone was asking, is rain a reason for... Well, I should probably follow up and say thank you, Mom and Dad. and my family. I love you guys. But someone asked, is rain a violation? No, you can actually launch in the rain, but there's a really good chance if there's rain. I don't know, Andrew, if you can pull up the weather briefing thing, that would be cool. I don't know if you can because the producer's having so many problems. Yeah, but there's a whole long list of weather criteria. But mostly it's like cumulus clouds, lightning strikes. There's a lot of extra rules for weather on this particular launch because it has crew on it. Not necessarily, there is a little more stringent around the pad and stuff like that. But because they have to have clear weather all the way along their ascent path. So almost entirely the whole coast of the eastern United States basically has to be clear. Not because the rocket would fly through the weather. The rocket will get out of the weather in literally a minute. In the first minute, the rocket's way above any weather. And it's on its way. The problem is if there was a problem with the rocket and the crew needed to abort, and the Dragon capsule has those super Draco thrusters that can pull the capsule away from the rocket. If they need to do that, the capsule would end up, splashing down somewhere along the ascent path. So basically a couple 100 miles or 300 miles off of or 300 kilometers off the coast of the United States. It's going up on a 51.6 degree angle from Kennedy Space Center, basically following the coast of the United States. And if it splashes down somewhere, they need to be able to have ground crew or sea crew come out and rescue them and be able to retrieve them safely. So not only is it the weather here a big concern, no lightning, no strong winds, no upper level winds, no cumulus clouds. All these things have to be in line for weather here. But to make sure that in case of the unlikely event of an abort, they need to be able to safely retrieve the astronauts quickly and not have like high sea states, not have high winds, not have lightning and weather concerns. And it seems like weather is by far our biggest concern today. So yeah, we will see. This is nutty stuff, to be honest. How much does it take the Falcon 9 rocket to get to orbit? I don't know what exactly that means, but I'll answer in a couple different ways. Money. The Falcon 9 we think can launch. I think they can sell a Falcon 9 launch, not with the Crew Dragon on top, because the Crew Dragon's probably $100 million or something. But the Falcon 9, we think they can sell it for a flight and still make money for around $40 million. I know that sounds like quite a bit of money, and it is a lot of money. But considering the capability of the vehicle, it's actually really, 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 really cheap. To low Earth orbit, the Falcon 9 can actually take a lot to low Earth orbit. It can send about 6 tons, 6,000 kilograms to geostationary transfer orbit, which is a very high performing vehicle. That's a lot. And to be able to do that for $40 million is like 5 times cheaper than the next cheapest rocket, basically, already. So to ask how much does it take to get the Falcon 9 into orbit, that's how much money. How much fuel? A lot. The rocket is you can't really tell because it's so skinny, but it is 3.8 meters wide, so it's 12 feet wide. It's 70 meters tall, 45 meters tall for just the first stage, but the whole thing's 70 meters tall, 220 feet tall. This thing is massive. It's really big. It's a 22-story tall building. Like, this would be a skyscraper in most cities that aren't like LA, New York, some of the bigger metropolis areas. In most Midwest cities or something, it would be a tall, tall building. So it takes all of that fuel, everything but the very tip of the rocket, basically, to be able to get that into orbit. And like I said, this is about 12,000 kilograms, the Crew Dragon capsule is. Now, the Crew Dragon capsule has a pressurized vessel where the crew is. You want them to be pressurized with a familiar atmosphere to what we experience here. I don't think it's a full bar, but it's pretty close. But then it also has an unpressurized section called the Dragon trunk. And so the trunk is just sitting right below the main capsule, and they can put unpressurized things that would be attached to the external parts of the International Space Station. And that's awesome. I don't know what else to say about that. It's a cool feature of the Dragon capsule to be able to fly up extra bits of cargo, though. So what's cool is once the Dragon capsule docks, which this Dragon capsule docks. The old Dragon 1, I'm going to raise my seat, and this is going to be a fun little adventure. Yeah. The old Dragon capsule, Dragon 1, the cargo-only version, berthed, it was called. It wasn't docking. This spacecraft docks. The old Dragon capsule without people on it would berth to the station. So what it does is it goes up and parks itself really close. And then the Canada arm, there's this arm on the space station, or Canadarm. It actually doesn't have two A's, so it'd be like Canadarm. I don't know. Grabs onto it and actually pulls it in and has it end up connecting with the docking port. So, yeah. So that's the rundown on the Dragon capsule and how it's awesome and how there's literally astronauts sitting on it right now. Oh my word. If this thing gets past the go no go poll, it is clearing up here quite a bit. Weather, Tim Dodd, weather update 2020. Today it's May 27th. It is 3:23 local time. My watch isn't working because why would things work today? 3:23 local time. The weather is sprinkly. Here, you can see behind me is the vehicle assembly building. That is that's the vehicle assembly building, and that room right there that I'm pointing to right there with the stairs, that's the firing room. That's where I interviewed Elon and Jim Bridenstine yesterday. It was right there in that firing room, and that's where they commanded the Apollo 11. All the Saturn V rockets were fired from that room, a firing room for being in that room. I would have been the happiest person yesterday just sitting in that room for 5 minutes. But being able to then talk with Elon Musk and Jim Bridenstine in that room, yeah, that I don't know. I don't know. I can't even describe it. That was insane. That was like dream come true times 10. So anyway, the weather report, because now that's what I'm having to do because I don't have other sources to be able to tell you anything. I'm also going to try pouring. Oh, this is going to go so badly. I'm going to try filling up my water bottle while I talk, and it's like hovering directly over an iPad. So if all of a sudden I get electrocuted from an iPad. Someone asked, is there a window today? That's a good question. I actually caught that one. Please keep asking me questions so I know. These missions are always going to be instantaneous. All Crew Dragon missions are instantaneous. Most Falcon 9 rocket missions are instantaneous because the Falcon 9 rocket, well, it's kind of a tricky thing because the Falcon 9 rocket can do a window if they have a window, but once they basically commit to fueling, for the most part, if they... Nothing, I didn't spill any water. Don't ask if I spilled a bunch of water on the floor. It's not a big deal. Just some water. The Falcon 9 rocket, once they start fueling it up, they have about 40 minutes. Actually, it's 35 minutes from beginning a fuel up to topping it off and going for launch. Because they use super chilled propellants, they can't actually sit there with the rocket full of fuel. This is a fun topic, though, because this is different. So the Atlas V, which is the launch pad's right over there, launch complex, Slick Space Launch Complex 41 is right there. 39A is over here. But the Atlas V, which is what the Boeing Starliner will launch on top of and has launched on top of for one demonstration. They'll do another demonstration mission this year, hopefully, and then they'll fly crew as soon as that goes well. That rocket will sit and actually be fully pressurized and fully fueled with liquid oxygen, fully fueled with RP-1, with their rocket propellant, topped off and ready to go. And then they load the crew up into it. And that's the way it's always been. Like the space shuttle, they sent the crew out there after the space shuttle was stable and ready to go. I finally see the what my mom said. She bought me a meal. Thank you, Mom. Mom's always trying to feed me even when I'm gone. Wait, what was I saying? Sorry, I'm like Mr. ADD. Why do you watch me when there's like professional hosts that are probably telling you everything perfectly and I'm over here forgetting exactly what I was talking about. What was I talking about? Super chill propellants. Atlas, all the normal rockets are pressurized, ready to go. Sorry, I'm not normally this way. It's just that I am always this way. But the Atlas V will be fully fueled when the astronauts get on board. This is different because the Falcon 9 uses super chilled propellants, because it has liquid oxygen that's minus 207 degrees as opposed to the minus 183 degrees Celsius. Sorry, Fahrenheit lovers. I love when people are like, why didn't you tell us that in Fahrenheit? Like, it's cold. Minus 180 degrees Celsius. I don't care how cold that is in Fahrenheit. That's colder than I know what. Like, if it's minus freezing, like if it's minus 32 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 0 Celsius, anything below that, just cold. It's just cold. It doesn't matter. So, like, I don't know why people's gauge, like, would they know if I'm, like, minus 300? I have no idea. If they were, like, minus 340 degrees Fahrenheit, would they be like, I know how cold that is. That's how cold my refrigerator, you know, like, what context do you have? It's just really, really, really cold. So anyway, Falcon 9 rocket, super chilled propellants, minus 207 degrees Celsius. And, yeah, it's so cold that they have this very small window. That's why they're pressuring it and topping it off until T-minus 1 minute. That's how, like, they only have about 1 minute before it starts to warm up and boil off, and they lose the density and the performance that they were expecting out of the fuel. So the Falcon 9 rocket it used to be really finicky. I remember when they were trying, I think, like, SES-9 back in 2016, when they were flying the full thrust version of the Falcon 9. There's a lot of teething pains. There were so many scrubbed launches because they were trying to work on the fuel up procedure, and everyone was saying it's not worth it to have all these super chilled propellants. It's so complicated. Why would you bother with super chilled propellants? Just do it normal. You're only gaining like 2 or 3% more, density and power. It's not a big deal. Just do normal fuel. They had been doing normal fuel before that time. And yeah, 2015 was the first time they flew with, December 21st, 2015 was the first time SpaceX flew with a vehicle that had super chilled propellants. And after that, they were always flying with super chilled propellants. And people just thought it was not a good idea. But now they've absolutely nailed it down. They're very rarely scrubbing because of mechanical reasons or because of like a fuel up issue. Because they're a well-oiled machine, they launch way more than any other provider. So they're used to how these things work. It's all an automated process. They just basically plug the rocket in and then say, okay, everything's good to go. Go ahead and try to launch. And that's extremely unusual. So, yeah, the cool thing is that they have that super chilled propellant, and because of that, though, they actually put the astronauts on it before there's any fuel on board. And there was actually some pushback. NASA didn't like that idea at first. NASA was like, we've never done that. You can't do that. We've never done that. That's not how we do things. And that's fine. That's an okay thing. It's an okay thing to question your constraints a little bit, right? And say, this is how this goes. This is how we've always done it, right? But SpaceX was like, here's why we're going to do this. Here's how we're going to do it. And here's how we're going to keep the crew safe. And when I think about it, like personally, I'm not a rocket scientist, but in my head, it does make sense to do it this way because your crew is they're safely inside of a sealed pressure vessel with Super Draco abort motors. Everything is good to go. And they have a way out if something were to go wrong during fuel up. You're never exposing the crew or the ground crew to a rocket that has, pressurized propellants on board. They're approaching the vehicle and it's empty. So right now the rocket is still totally empty, and we're not going to see it even consider being loaded up until T-minus 35 minutes. So what are we at now? We are at T-minus 1 hour, basically. I should probably be listening to like the countdown net or something. There should be something I should be doing. That's what I should be doing. Let's see, strapped and ready to go. I'm just looking at some SpaceX tweets because right now even though I'm on site, I'm literally looking at the rocket with my eyeballs. Yeah, I still might need to be doing some tweeting and stuff. So yeah, we're about 15 minutes from the go, no-go poll. I'm going to see if there's actually the SpaceX feed and try to listen into that because there should actually be that option for this where we hear, let me see here. Okay, I'm going to have this listening. And you guys might hear it in the background. I apologize ahead of time, but That's just what we're doing. I'd rather have it this way than nothing. Okay, so I've got this pulled up here. I'm going to be listening in. Hopefully we can catch any updates, and I'll be able to tell you guys what's going on. So, Trevor Mallman over there. We have a whole row of Teslas over here. Craig's over in his Tesla. We have Trevor in his Tesla. His Tesla crew. The tornado warning's gone for those that asked. Thank you for asking. So everything's looking good as far as that goes. Yeah, we'll probably hear a little bit about whether or not there's a scrub in a very... Here we go. We just got... Okay. Let's see here. Nope, that's not an update yet. It is not really raining anymore. Luckily, it has calmed down quite a bit. And actually, I can see some blue sky. So that's the Tim Dodd weather update. Can you see that? That's a little patch of blue sky. Who knows? They might still go for it today, which would be kind of insane considering how crazy it was. But that is, you know, this stuff costs a lot of money. Look at how many people are involved. So a scrub, yeah, a scrub is not cheap. But a scrub is a lot cheaper than a boom. You know, that's what I always say is a scrub is cheaper than a boom. So at this point, you know, obviously they want to go if they can go, but anything that's not okay, they will not go. So really, they're going to try to go until they can't. Until there's a clear thing that's like, you absolutely cannot go today. They're going to keep going because they've already paid for all of this. They've already paid for the rides and all the safety and all of the time of the personnel. I mean, there's a lot of money in this, right? There's thousands of people working on this mission currently. So they want to, you know, they want to try to go until they absolutely cannot go, right? So we're still going to see them going for whatever they've got, and whatever they end up doing, we'll see. So again, at about T-minus 45 minutes, oh, we just got go for launch. Wow. I did not see that coming. But it is looking clear here. All right, guys. We're in the last hour. We are in the last hour. Oh, man. That's crazy. I'm not hearing audio from this stream at all. And I think there should be.
A little bit earlier.
So I'm actually gonna try pulling up. I just want to see you the other SpaceX stream real quick and see how that's going. Because maybe I can hear a little bit of that. If I was over at the clock. You know what I should do? I've got a great idea. Although I don't know where they are right now. But 1 second. Come on. Oh, breaking my back. I'll just have this in my ear. I can listen in. Get some updates for you guys. I'm gonna make sure these are actually my headphones because they are not working currently. It's not just the way this goes.
This poll is also good for arming the launch system and for propellant load.
Other stuff too. So I'm hearing like multiple feeds.
And then the countdown and reporting that the technical poll is completed. All systems are proceeding. We're monitoring the weather as well as briefed. We're also looking at the watch item on a hydraulics QD rod ring.
Okay, there we go. Okay, now I've got a slick system going. I actually have Finally. It took me until this long to think about that, but now I can listen to the audio from the launch. I'll let you guys know what's going on. Oh, man. It's starting to really hit now.
Stage 2, RB1 bleed is complete.
Stage 2, something is complete. So, alright guys. I'm actually going to try to pull up the, let's see. I'm going to try and pull up, there is a phone number that I could call that would give me a better, more current update. Hang on 1 second here. Sorry guys. Not very riveting content at this exact second, but let me get all set up and good to go.
All right, we just crossed the 55-minute mark away from launch. Sitting right next to Doug Hurley, who's closest to your screen, is NASA astronaut Bob Behnken. He is the Joint Operations Commander for Demo 2, and Behnken previously flew on 2 space shuttle missions, STS-123 and STS-130, and also served a tour as Chief of the Astronaut Office. So here's a little bit more about the man who said testing out a brand new spacecraft is an astronaut's dream.
Okay, so I'm working on getting the launch, the actual launch countdown nets, so that I have it analog, so that I'm in time with everything. Okay, here we go. I found it. Hang on. How is it busy? How can that be possible? 1 second, guys. Crap. Too many. Okay. I'm just going to keep trying to call in, because if I can call in, then I can have an analog version so I don't have a delay. And then the countdown nets. So. Oh, man. This is getting close. This is getting really close. So, should I do like a rundown? I feel like it's probably time. Let me take a drink of water. No, I'll give you guys the rundown. Okay, you ready? Let me try calling one more time just so I can dang it. Yeah, too many requests. Okay, so here is our rundown of what exactly is happening today. This is a really, really big deal in both NASA's history, but also for SpaceX. This is by far SpaceX's most important and biggest mission to date. SpaceX has they've launched 85 Falcon 9 rockets, so they're not new to the game. They've put a lot of stuff in space, so they are a big deal as far as launch providers go. They are right up there, but this is by far the most important because today they are launching humans to space. And this is for NASA. This is a SpaceX and a NASA mission. And that's why this is an awesome thing, because SpaceX got hired by NASA to send crew to the International Space Station. So we're seeing the dawn of a new era where NASA doesn't have to build a rocket and do all this stuff. They can literally just say, hey, we need a ride to space. Who wants to build us a rocket? Tell us how much and we'll take the best bid. And SpaceX and Boeing won the 2 bids. SpaceX is going to be the first one to complete that. And they are currently 51 minutes away from that being the case. We are literally about to see SpaceX and NASA launch humans for the first time from the United States since 2011, since July 8th, 2011, STS-135. That was the last time humans went to orbit from the United States, from United States soil. Obviously, the United States still has bought seats from Russia on the Soyuz rocket. Ever since that day, that's been our only ride up to the International Space Station, has been on the Soyuz rocket. So, good thing that's been around, because otherwise humans would be stranded and have no ride to space. But today, we're getting another ride to space. And this is extremely exciting. This is a big deal. You know, this is the first time that Well, for me, this is the first time I've seen a rocket launch with humans on it. I've never actually seen humans go to space. And today, weather pending, I might see a good amount of it, but it's definitely going to be they're going to be shooting up straight into clouds, kind of like the in-flight abort test. But this is a Falcon 9 rocket carrying the Crew Dragon capsule, and it's a rocket that's flown. They've flown it 85 times. This particular rocket is brand new, so SpaceX has this awesome habit of reusing their rockets. They built the first stage of the rocket, can go to space. It can let go of the second stage. The second stage continues off into orbit, because don't forget, to get into space, you go up. To stay in space, you have to go sideways really, really, really fast, right? And that's getting into orbit. That's all orbit is you're going so fast that you fall at the same speed as you going down, as gravity's pulling you. So you're going forward as fast as gravity's pulling you down. You just never end up hitting the Earth, and there's nothing to slow you down. There's no air resistance because you flew up out of the atmosphere. No air resistance. You're just in orbit. So the first stage of this rocket can go up. It gets going about 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers an hour, really, really screaming fast, 3,000 miles an hour. And then it lets go of the second stage. It might even be faster than that. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. Let's go of the second stage. The second stage does the rest of the work, but then the first stage leaves some fuel left. And the first stage will either turn around and come back to land here at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, or it'll end up landing downrange on a drone ship, on a giant football field-sized drone ship. And I don't care where you're from, what you consider football. It's roughly the same size. It's a big, big area. It's a huge ship. But they still nail it. It has to be a bullseye landing from the edge of space. And so on top of that Falcon 9 rocket is the Crew Dragon capsule. And this is a new version of the Dragon capsule. The Dragon capsule has been a very successful vehicle. It's flown 20 times, did 20 missions, resupplying the International Space Station with cargo. And yeah, tonight then the first time it flew was in February of last year, the Crew version. And so this is Dragon 2. So they will actually, from now on, only be using Dragon 2 because they have a cargo version as well. So it's one that is stripped down from life support. All the stuff you don't need when you're not flying human. Seats, screens, all that type of stuff is stripped away, and they have a Crew variant. So, but this will be the first time that they take the cargo version, or the Crew version, and they put people on it. And those two people are Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, Commander Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley. Now, both of these astronauts have flown on 2 other missions each. So this will be their third launch. They're best friends. I don't know if I've talked about this yet on the stream. These two guys are like best friends. Both of their wives are astronauts. They are an astronaut family through and through. They're in each other's weddings. Like, these are two best friends getting in a Dragon capsule and going to space today. Like, how can you not be excited about this? This is history in the making right here. And we're watching a commercial rocket, a SpaceX rocket, who's owned, initially started by Elon Musk. This was just some crazy pipe dream. It started off as a philanthropy thing, as we were talking yesterday. I was talking with him right there inside that room, the firing room. And he was reminding us that SpaceX started because he wanted to get people excited. And I can tell you, based on the amount of people watching a guy sitting in his car looking at a rocket, that you guys are excited. And I'm excited. And this is a totally new era of human spaceflight. We're at the dawn of a new era of spaceflight. And it is just so exciting. So it sounds like they're still watching the weather. Get this, hang on. So I'm going to be listening to the countdown net here, but they just said that they are still going, and they're likely going for fuel up, but they do have the final countdown and the final T-minus 45 minutes check. So that will be the go, no-go poll again, the final thing. Once we see the Crew access arm retract, that means that they're about to start fully pressurizing. So at that point, the Crew access arm will rotate about T-minus 42 minutes. And you can see it on the sidebar over here. Is that the right way? Am I pointing the right way, or is it over there? I don't know. Over there, I have the sidebar up on screen, and that'll show you what the upcoming events are. So one of the next things is at T-minus 45 minutes, we're going to know whether or not they're really committing for this. Then if we see the Crew access arm pull away, that's a good sign that things are going, and you'll see it. We'll have it up here on the screen.
Now coming up on
and then Okay,
Didn't hear
hang
any
on.
significant chatter coming over countdown 1.
Yes, launch director in the countdown net. Pull is complete,
Okay.
and we have a go
Here we
to
go, hold on.
proceed with propellant load. Launch
Go
control
to proceed with
sequence
propellant load, guys.
Arming crew arm movement for T-minus 45 minutes. Thank you, launch control.
I just got goosebumps.
A reminder,
I'm
to
surprised they're
drive on
going for it right now. I don't know.
protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief CE or LD, and it will approve aborting the launch auto sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operator shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. Operator shall also advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring for Dragon manual escape flight rules. Remainder on fire alarm instructions. Here in Fireman 4, in the event of a fire alarm, key operators, previously briefed, will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personal safety is threatened, we will evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. One final reminder, there'll be
They actually have
launch escape system momentarily. All personnel, please stay in your seats from now through orbit insertion and Dragon separation from the second stage.
Guys, this is insane. Sorry, I was just listening in.
Heard Mike Taylor, the SpaceX launch director, give instructions to the team.
Here we go.
We've also just heard the call. The crew access arm retraction is underway. Great view from the camera inside the White Room as we see the arm moving away from the
No
Dragon
way!
capsule.
It's getting
One of the
real,
measurements
guys.
Necessary to get down
Okay,
to
so the
T0.
crew access arm's
The next one
retracting.
coming up will be arming
That
of the
means
escape system
okay.
on
That
the
means
Dragon
that
capsule.
next thing we're going to see them actually
Right now, the next plan
prepare
for
and
Falcon 9,
get the
T-minus
launch abort
45
system
minutes, we will begin
armed
loading
and ready for the
propellant on
launch.
the first and second
Once that thing's
stages.
armed and ready for launch,
Now currently,
they're going to be starting to fuel
Falcon
up.
9's looking good.
Oh my word,
Dragon's
this is
looking
shocking.
good.
It's just the weather. I just did not think we were even going to have a chance at getting this far
Around
today.
The, launch pad, both the air and the sea space. Looking at the flight corridor. The
From
ground
my view right here,
stations,
I can see the
NASA
arms getting
satellites
much
and
wider.
satellites are ready to support, and we just continue to monitor the weather. Our team is getting household updates. We're
So the big
monitoring,
concern, they are monitoring weather. So that even if they do go for fuel up, we could still end up getting a weather, a hold at near the end of the count. But for now,
is how
hang on.
much rain we're going to get between now and liftoff. Whether it's just going to be mild precipitation that's within the rules for loading propellant, that's what the expectation is. But we're going to continue to watch that. So fingers crossed. But right
Okay.
now, coming up at T
So-
43 minutes, 18 seconds and counting. Everything but the weather's go, and the weather is trending in the right direction. So we've got our fingers crossed here.
So basically the weather is trending in the right direction. They can't load the vehicle up in a really heavy rainstorm. So they can have like a light drizzle. They actually have exact measurements on how much rain can be falling before they end up loading it up. Because once they load up, don't forget the liquid oxygen is minus 207 degrees Celsius. If you have rain hitting it and stuff, it can cause all sorts of new ice conditions and things. So there's a certain safety protocol around how much rain, what types of clouds, is there lightning, like all of these weather constraints are definitely some of the biggest issues. And so they are... Okay, so yeah, so now we're just waiting for the launch escape system to be armed. Oh man.
Okay.
So they go for section 7,
So
which
that means
I
those
don't know what that
those,
means.
8 throttle valves are opened, and if those Super Dracos needed to fire in order for a Dragon to escape off of the pad, they could.
Okay. They just armed the launch abort system.
Field lead is complete.
They're actually ahead of schedule. But yeah, those, so you can see those kind of like those vent looking things on the shot right now. Those are where the Super Draco motors are.
We saw NASA astronauts
the Super Draco motors are, there's 8 of them, and they're liquid fueled motors. This is new for...
So we just heard the astronauts.
Okay, they are officially arming the launch escape system. So this is new. There's never really been a time before where a crew vehicle like this has a liquid fueled launch abort system. Normally, a launch abort system is a solid rocket motor. Think of like a bottle rocket or like a model rocket. Those are solid engines. You get a spark in there, they light up, they go. But you can't turn them off. You can't really throttle. You can pre-program their throttle by cutting them different, but you can't really program their throttling. These are liquid fuel aborts. So in other words, they're hypergolic fuels, and the second these two fuels touch, it's what am I thinking? What's the oh my word? Well, it's hydrazine. Then can't think of it because I haven't slept. Anyway, once the liquid fuel and the oxidizer touch, those engines go. And these Super Draco engines, there's 8 of them. They're in clusters of 2. They're in pairs. There's 4 pods around the vehicle, and they end up steering the vehicle away and wherever it needs to go and pointing it in the right direction using thrust differentials. So they can actually precisely think of like a drone. You know how a quadcopter flies in the air and it controls where it goes by having more or less thrust on the propellers, right? And they can steer it. That's exactly actually how these Super Draco motors work. They end up using thrust differential to steer through the air, and using and it's really advanced actually, and it's very similar. SpaceX can actually hover using those Super Draco motors. They have that much control over it. They had plans originally to try to propulsively land, assuming they didn't need to abort. They would have still had that fuel left over, and they could have landed using the Super Draco abort motors. But so now these babies are armed, which means that they are getting ready to go for fuel up. I'm about to literally pee my pants. I'm getting so excited. I just did not think this was going to happen. Okay, hang on. I'm going to listen in here. Okay, so that is that's super cool. That is great news, though. The launch abort system being armed. So the next thing we're looking for at T-minus 35 minutes, they will go for fuel up. So what they'll do is they'll load the liquid propellant, the RP1 rocket fuel, again, which is just a highly refined kerosene. It's actually a highly refined jet fuel. So Jet A jet fuel, like anytime you're on an airliner, you're seeing Jet A jet fuel. That's how you're flying around in a jet. That's just highly refined kerosene. And RP1 is even a more highly refined version of that. And so what they have is they'll load that up at T-minus 35 minutes in the upper stage and in the lower stage. And they'll also begin, because the first stage is so much bigger, they'll begin loading up the liquid oxygen in the first stage. And then at T-minus 16 minutes, they'll begin loading the upper stage as well, because it's smaller. So then the 2 of them will be loading liquid oxygen at the same time. So we're going to start looking for the venting on the vehicle, looking for signs that they're ready to actually fuel it up. And pretty soon I'm going to stand outside and I'm going to get ready. I've got another camera for you guys. For those of you wanting to know how much longer to launch, that's what we've got, the T-minus clock right up there in the orange for you guys. That is the time between how much longer we have to wait for this vehicle to go. So we're getting really, really close to the beginning of fuel up. I'm seeing so many generous super chats. Thank you guys so much for your support. Seriously, it means the absolute world to me. I'm so sorry that I can't answer your questions and say hi. Nothing's working really on my end, but I really appreciate it. You guys are quite literally making my dreams come true. Like way beyond my wildest dreams. I need to give you guys a quick little reminder. 2 years ago, February 6, 2018, I was standing right here at Kennedy Space Center. I was a member of the press for the Falcon Heavy Demo mission. And I was a year into my YouTube channel. I was excited about my YouTube channel. I thought I had a lot of good work and I was really excited about it, but I got denied being able to go into the press conference afterwards. And I remember that was almost fuel for me to be like, I'm going to step it up. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be out here and be as involved as they will let me be. And here we are, able to speak with Elon Musk and Jim Bridenstine yesterday. Literally one of very few people that it's allowed to be here, and I can't believe this is happening. So thank you to my wonderful community. Thank you to you guys for watching me. Thank you for asking good questions and tweeting at me with good questions so I can make more videos and know what you guys have questions about, and then I can figure it out, because I don't know the answers to everything. And that's the beautiful thing about my job, is I can learn and remember how I learned and how I got there, and bring that to you guys too. So thank you so much. And to my Patreon supporters who continually support me on a monthly basis. You guys are the absolute best. If you want to join our awesome Discord channel, talk about everything that's going to be happening today and in the future, and talk about upcoming videos and stuff, go to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Again, Patreon, patreon.com/everydayastronaut. It helps so much. So thank you guys. Okay, I think they're like pretty much ready for fuel up. So, I'm probably going to... Photographers and everyone are getting ready to go. You know, everyone, the excitement's definitely in the air now. And, yeah, we are basically T-minus 35 minutes. So we are going to be seeing fuel up any minute. So what we're going to be looking for, it'll look like the rocket is all of a sudden smoking. And you don't have to worry. It is not smoke. That is literally... That's totally normal. That is, all that is condensation, because the vehicle is so insanely cold. The vehicle is being loaded again with fuel, with liquid oxygen that's minus 207 degrees Celsius. So it's so cold that if you went up and touched the rocket with your hands, like your hands would freeze off, basically. Like you don't want to do that. You can't do that. You wouldn't be happy about it. And because it's so cold, the humidity in the air ends up, coming in contact with it. Just like when you open your freezer on certain humidity, high humidity days, or if you've ever used like dry ice, you can see how the cold... Oh, hold on. Prop load started. Sorry, I'm just listening in. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, so they're just talking about the everything's still good. I'm just soaking this all in for a second. Friendly reminder, yeah, they're putting rocket fuel onto the rocket. And this is actually the first time. There's fuel flowing sometimes, and previous missions, they had fuel flowing, but I think this is the first time in history. I might be wrong, because I think the Redstone might have done it differently, but this is the first time in modern history that anyone probably living has heard the sounds of liquid fuel loading into a vehicle, because they are sitting there right now on top of this rocket that was previously empty and is currently being loaded up with cryogenic propellant and cryogenic liquid oxygen and with RP-1 rocket fuel. They are hearing it with their own ears, and that's why they have the launch abort system there, because if something goes wrong during this process, which obviously everything's been tested, everything's been ready to go, there's a very high degree of confidence that everything will be okay with it. But in case something goes wrong, they do have an abort system. They have the ability to literally either manually like trigger a button and pull a thing, and they'll get out of there at like 7 or 8 G's of acceleration, and yeah, just get out of there, right, and get away from impending doom. Or even if it's not like a big like explosion, it would at least prevent them from just falling, right? So it'll keep them safe, and they'd splash down just a little bit downrange in the oceans. It's bad, but it's there for a reason, to keep them safe. This is all about keeping crew safe. Bob and Doug are in there right now, waiting, hearing the fuel flowing, and they're probably they're so thankful that the engineers have a reliable abort system there, ready to be able to, keep them safe. Just in case. Now, that is a total backup. Again, the Falcon 9 has been extremely reliable. They had some teething pains kind of earlier on in the company, but ever since, they've had so many successful launches. This is an unbelievably reliable vehicle, and it's been even more stringently certified now, with NASA being like, we're putting humans on this thing. You got to make sure this thing is super, super reliable. So the Falcon 9 rocket is just absolutely incredible. And okay, the flow rates are good. Everything's looking nice. I'm going to try switching back to the actual, just the feeds. See if I can't get that. This might tell me more if it works. More or less. I don't know. Oh, this is insane, guys. Like I said, I did not see this like happening today with how bad weather was. I just really didn't think this was going to happen. And now it's happening. So once I start seeing condensation, and once I know that we're really getting that much closer, it's go time. It'll be full-blown go time for me. I'll stand outside. I'll literally try not to pee my pants. I'm not being funny about that. I've drank a lot of water today. Don't want to be dehydrated. But you also don't want to pee your pants. So what am I going to do? I have no idea. Hold it. Oh, if I pee my pants on air, I'll never hear the end of it. Oh, this is crazy, guys. How is everyone out there feeling? I can't even check in with you now because everything on my end is pretty much dead. I'm in a zone of nothingness because nothing is charging. My iPad that I was reading your comments off of is no longer working. So I am just a sad, sad boy. And now what is happening? Okay, anyway, okay, let's make a bigger fool of everything right now. I'm going to try charging this up so I can maybe get back to you guys as soon as possible because it is go time right now, guys. Like this is fuel up. This is astronauts returning to space, returning to orbit, not just space, not like space tourism. Space tourism, you basically go up, you come back down, you're up and you're off the ground for 20 minutes. They're going to be off the ground for a minimum a month because they're going up to the International Space Station. So this is not just some little, short little mission or anything. This is the mission. This is not a space tourism. Space tourism is super cool, and like maybe you and I can afford to do that someday. But this is not what that is. This is completely different. Hey, I'm going to go back to the nets that I actually know are working.
I'm listening to some discussion on one of the back nets, trying to track where we are with the weather criteria. We're just passing another weather gate right now, trying to see whether or not the conditions are go.
They're still talking about weather.
When the weather is no go, you have to wait 30 minutes, and we are now inside of 30 minutes. But if the cloud moves away, if the conditions improve, we may be able to continue the countdown for another 14 minutes and reassess. So we're waiting to see whether or not we can continue the count.
Okay.
Currently we are.
So there's this weird window here where
no problems in the air and the sea space area.
Okay, so basically, depending on the weather right now, depending on whether or not, basically if there's a certain type of cloud, if it's within this certain zone, an exclusion zone, they have to wait 30 minutes. And so now that we're coming up within 30 minutes of T0, if one of those clouds pops up, it's over. They are not going to be launching today. They will scrub the launch. And so they're kind of waiting to hear whether or not that is the case, or if things are looking to improve. If things are looking to improve, they'll continue going. And then,
take about 19 hours,
all right.
And their journey is fairly similar to the trip our cargo dragon makes back.
This is crazy, guys. I just honestly can't believe this is happening. So let me give you guys the rundown again one more time, just for
ground operations teams just doing those final series of system checks, making sure.
So I'm not even seeing condensation from here yet, so it's obviously not that full. As the vehicle fills up, you'll literally see more and more smoke, but for where I'm at, I can't see, it's not smoke, sorry, condensation clouds. From where I'm at, I can't see condensation billowing off of it yet, but we're kind of waiting for that. So again, if you start seeing clouds coming off of the vehicle, that's good. That means that they're actually loading. You can see the effects of that really cold cryogenic fuel and cryogenic liquid oxygen doing their work. The RP1, they do chill it near freezing, but not cryogenic. The rest of the stuff is extremely cold and very much cryogenic. So
after doing enough of
Dragon
those burns,
SpaceX.
Okay, so
sounds like we're gonna get a weather update real quick.
Oh, hand. Weather update.
Yeah, we're currently just evaluating a constraint on the field mill rule, which looks at lightning energy dissipation. We expect to have an update at about T-20, and more information there on whether we would be able to continue into the prop load or scrub at that time.
Okay, so at T20, we'll get another indicator of whether or not they're go or no go. So that'll be kind of a time for whether or not they're going to scrub. So 6 minutes.
So it sounds like
we'll know a little bit more.
find out in about 6 minutes if we're going to have enough time. And John, I was referring to a couple of those weather situations where we have to have a certain amount of
How are you
time.
guys doing? This is like...
Case, with the field mills, about 15 minutes. So
okay, so again, to reiterate, in case you're tuning in right now, we are like 25 minutes away from humans riding on top of a private company's rocket and going into orbit for the very first time. This will be the Crew Dragon capsule on top of a Falcon 9 rocket. And this is a huge, huge deal. Okay, and I'm listening in to what they're saying. Yeah. Sorry. So, I just saw lightning over there. So that's what they're looking at. Right now they're looking at lightning dissipation. They're trying to figure out whether or not lightning is too close or too far away. I don't remember what launch it was. One of the, maybe it was Arabsat or something, or one of the Falcon Heavy missions. It was Demo 1. There was a huge lightning storm that was very visible from the press site and stuff, but it wasn't a threat. It looked like it was really close, but it was like actually really, really far away. So even if I see lightning, don't take that as a sign, because it can be really deceiving how far away lightning is. So yeah, we are getting a lot closer here. Let me see here how we're doing. Just listening in. Maybe if I go outside, actually, I might be able to hear some of the countdowns over loudspeakers. But yeah, we are basically inside of 25 minutes from humans going to space, launching from U.S. soil into orbit for the first time since July 8th, 2011. The last space shuttle mission, STS-135, took off from this exact launch pad 9 years ago, almost coming up on 9 years ago. And this is huge. This is since that last space shuttle mission, the United States has been buying seats on Russia's Soyuz capsule and the Russian Soyuz rocket, which has been a very phenomenal and reliable workhorse rocket that has been the only vehicle capable of getting us to space. So thank you, Roscosmos, for still providing access to the International Space Station. But now we're seeing a 21st century ride. This is the most gorgeous futuristic rocket and futuristic spacecraft ever made, with it's touch screens and infographics and all this stuff that's, and oh man. Okay, so in 4 minutes we're gonna get another weather update. And the cool thing about the Falcon 9 rocket that they're launching on top of again is that this vehicle is reusable. About 2/3 of the vehicle is reusable. SpaceX can land the first stage. They're planning to land the first stage of this rocket, and that brings the cost down immensely. When 2/3 of your rocket is reusable and you can refly it, you can put fuel back, do some checks, do some refurbishment, fill that baby up with fuel and oxidizer, and you can launch it again. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a huge cost savings. That brings the cost of flight down so much, and that allows even more capability for SpaceX, and then for its customers. Its customers all of a sudden can get a cheaper ride to space. Again, you can buy a Falcon 9 for almost $40 million now, a ride on Falcon 9, or purchase not a ride, but you could fly cargo on a Falcon 9 for almost $40 million. And I know that's still really expensive, but that's insanely cheap in the world of space flight. Okay, so we're going to get a weather update in about 3 minutes. Okay, hang on. How do you guys think? Right now, you got to think about Bob and Doug up there. So Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley, two humans inside the spacecraft right now with liquid oxygen flowing beneath them, rocket fuel flowing beneath them. They're ready to go to space, guys. They have a job to do. They are focused. They're seasoned veterans. Both of them have been to space 2 times. Doug Hurley was on STS-135. Doug Hurley has launched from this exact launch pad. The last time anyone launched from that launch pad, Doug Hurley was on that launch. And here fly again for the first time in 9 years. Oh, man. This is just nuts. And the fun thing is the crew of STS-135 left a flag, an American flag, up on the International Space Station, with the challenge of whoever comes and gets this, like, wins the race, basically. And knowing that the next version of people that were going to come to get this would be commercial pilots, right? Or commercial crew. So it was a race between the commercial. We didn't even know who it was going to be. But for a while, the three main contenders before the final down select was SpaceX with their Dragon capsule, it was Boeing with their Starliner, and Sierra Nevada with their Dream Chaser, which is like a mini space plane, like mini space shuttle thing. So that is an awesome vehicle. That did end up winning contracts to be able to launch cargo, but that is not flying crew, at least not anytime soon, but they want it to be still. So maybe after they fly cargo, they could be able to get into that. So, but the two that ended up winning and racing to get this flag has been SpaceX and the Dragon capsule and Boeing and their Starliner. Now, Boeing launched for the first time in December, and they actually had some problems with their spacecraft that made it so the spacecraft ended up not being, it got into orbit, but it ended up having a problem with its a clock. And his thrusters were firing randomly, thinking it was at a different point in the mission. And all this stuff is autonomous. If there had been someone on board, the person could have overridden the vehicle and probably still been able to get up to the International Space Station. But they had to call that mission. And they had some other issues right before re-entry, but they did get the spacecraft back. And they are in the process of, oh, I can see liquid oxygen flowing from here now. I see a big old cloud of condensation. Oh, okay, we're going to hear weather updating. But moly. Okay, so Boeing ended up flying their Starliner for the first time in December. SpaceX flew the Crew Dragon capsule over a year ago. It was February of last year. It was DM1. They ended
oxygen you see venting off the rocket. That's
system that caused them to reevaluate some stuff. So Boeing's had to reevaluate. It was looking for a little while like the race was still on, but now
another 10 minutes. I don't think we're going to get there with any of the rules today.
I mean, give me 10 minutes.
I mean, another 10 minutes past T0.
Oh,
1640, 1645 local. I think we will probably be clear on all the rules, but not quite going to make it for this.
I think they're calling it right now.
We're going to check back in with you in about 2 minutes, and then I'll call it up at about T-minus 17 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, we got. There's some of them are starting to count down, but we still have one above 2,000. So if that gets below.
Conversation between the weather director and the criteria. He basically said if this launch were 10 minutes later in the clock, which it can't be, they have to be very specific times to be able to do the launch.
That sound great right there. That was the weather net.
Shoot. But he basically said if this launch was 10 minutes later than it is today, they'd probably be perfectly fine because everything's trending in the right direction. But unfortunately, it's probably not going to happen today. He said there's still some within a certain violation. And so, again, a reminder, the next opportunity is actually Saturday. So the next time we can come back out here and hope to see this launch would be Saturday, about an hour earlier than it is today, maybe a little earlier than that. I think an hour and 20. It's around 3 o'clock Eastern. Yeah, I will be. We'll hopefully on my end we'll be able to tweak a couple things that didn't go right if that is the case today. But we're listening to the weather. Okay, we're waiting for the launch director to give the final go or no go. Sorry, I'm listening in. Yeah, and so remember, they can't push the launch anyway. These missions to the International Space Station are instantaneous. So that means that the rocket has to line up and take off. Hold on.
We now do not expect to clear in time to allow for a launch today. We go ahead and today's launch attempt. Launch control would end the launch auto sequence and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence, please.
Yep, they called it. It's over. For today. It's over for today, but you know what, guys? I'm here. We will be here Saturday. Again, I'll have fixed a couple issues that we had today to help make the best coverage for you guys. Working on improving some things. Yeah, this happens. Scrubs happen. Again, scrubs are cheaper than booms, and there is no way they're going to be risking Bob and Doug's lives on any violation, on anything that remotely looks like it's not going to be go for launch. They call it, okay? Scrubs are cheaper than booms. We want these two people safe. We want a good, successful flight. We want an exciting and perfect start to the commercial crew program. So, everyone, a round of applause for the attempt today. I mean, they got really far into it, and I was hoping if it wasn't, you just knew the weather was going to be a problem. That's why I was talking about weather so much today, is because the weather was the main primary concern that they weren't going to launch. And this is normal. This is the first time, very common to get a rocket out on the pad and get it really close to launching, and it scrubs. Okay, this is pretty normal. I've been to launches where it scrubs like 3 or 4 times, and hopefully that's not the case with this rocket. The weekend looks like a lot better weather. The weekend is like, there's 2 opportunities too, because of the phasing and the way that the International Space Station's orbits line up with the launch pad and where the actual International Space Station is in orbit on those alignments. The opportunities on Saturday and Sunday, there's actually an opportunity on Saturday and there's an opportunity on Sunday. So that is fantastic. That's really, really good news. So maybe we'll see this thing on Saturday, and maybe it'll be a better day. Maybe it'll be more picturesque. Maybe it'll be this bright, beautiful dawn of a new era that we've all been waiting for, with gorgeous weather, and it will be a good thing in the long run, right? Because I mean, the weather, sure, it's not great, obviously, but who knows? Maybe it'll just be absolutely picture perfect on Saturday. I'm going to try to get to your guys' questions here again. Now that my iPad is alive, I'm trying to reload it here real quick. It's not liking running on everything right now, so I have no idea if I've even been live. As far as I know, none of this has happened. Let's see here. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so let me see if I can't get your comments pulled up. Like I said, I'm actually having problems. YouTube has been a naughty YouTube. Oh, no, go back. Let me try to read you guys' comments here in just a second. While we're doing comments and I'm pulling you guys up, I will answer a few more of your questions before I head out. I'm probably going to go to bed. I haven't slept in like 3 days. So maybe I'll be a lot better host on Saturday for you guys. But I feel like I owe everyone, again, a huge thank you. All of you that have supported me, that are here to tune in and hang out with me. It seriously means the absolute world to me. If you guys want to help support what I do, one of the best ways, I forgot to even say this, we have the new Future Martian the ones that Elon ended up after the interview yesterday. He's just like laughing. He's like, "You like Arcadia Planitia?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I mean, but you do, because that's where you guys are going to be trying to land Starship." And he's like, "Oh," and I go, "Yeah," and these are the exact coordinates, because the Future Martian Society shirt has the coordinates, the Prime A candidate landing site for Starship currently, and he just thought that was the coolest thing. So that shirt is currently on sale today. If you want to take 10% off, you can go to everydayastronaut.com/shop, type in the coupon code LAUNCHDAY for 10% off. That helps me a lot, supporting me, and just even like seeing pictures of people wearing my merchandise is like the craziest thing to me. Seeing Elon wear my merchandise is genuinely like the craziest thing. So if you guys want to help support what I do in a fun, cool way that benefits you too and shows everyone that you're a nerd too, everydayastronaut.com/shop. Again, that's just a huge way to support what I do. everydayastronaut.com/shop. We have the coolest merch. I guarantee it. All hand built here in the United States, and hand screen pressed and like sewn labels, custom packaging, everything. We go all out for you guys to give you a cool experience. We have the highest quality merch. So thank you guys for that. And also huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping make all of this stuff possible. If you guys want to see more content from me and you want me to try to get better access than this, like maybe up on the rocket or something, I don't know. Actually, I do have a thing where if I have 10,000 patrons, I'm supposed to buy a ride to space. And I actually, to be honest, I don't want to go to space. Like, it scares the crap out of me. But, yeah, I guess if you want that kind of coverage, if you want Tim crapping his pants on a rocket coverage, go to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. And if there's enough of you guys in there, that might be the case. Did we totally lose it? We may have lost our stream entirely. F in the chat for for the mission today. So no launch today. But yeah, oh, the shop is down. We crashed the shop. But don't worry, you have 24 hours to get one of those shirts at 10% off. I'll leave that open, the coupon code open for 10 hours or for 24 hours. So you guys have until tomorrow if you want to still pick up one of those shirts at 10% off. I'll leave that open. And then again on Saturday, I'll leave that coupon code open. And probably whatever shirt I'm wearing, I'll also put 10% off on that. So thank you guys for trying to shop. That really means a lot. But again, be sure you guys are following me on Twitter. Make sure you're check out the interview with Elon and Jim Bridenstine now that the stream is over. We had a lot of fun talking about this mission. So go ahead and give that a watch. It'll give you some insight on the mission. You can hear kind of... That's the most serious I've ever seen Elon Musk. Or not serious, but most focused. Because normally, you know, I guess when I've spoken to him in the past, when I've seen other interviews with him, the guy's got a million things going through his head, and he's so excited about this and this and this. You could tell in that interview that he is like, Crew Dragon, DM2, that's it. And everything is... And he's in this different state that I hadn't seen him before. And it's fascinating. And honestly, it was a lot of fun to see him like that. So... definitely check that out. Go there. Oh, also guys, if the shop is down, you can try shop.everydayastronaut.com. That might work because that'll bounce straight to Shopify. Again, if you are trying to get on the shop and you can't, try shop.everydayastronaut.com instead of everydayastronaut.com/shop. Just go shop.everydayastronaut.com, and that might work. I don't know if it will for sure, but give that a try. Let me know if that does work, because if you want to pop in there right now, that might be a way to do it. Shop.everydayastronaut.com. Yeah, check out the interview with Elon. Share it with a friend. Get your friends excited about this stuff, guys. This is a new era. We are literally at the dawn of a new era of human spaceflight, and I'm here to bring it to you guys as best as I can. And like I said, hopefully we'll have even better coverage for you. Sans rain. Well, I'm calling it now. It's going to be a gorgeous day, and we're going to see the most beautiful launch that I've ever been to, and it's going to be awesome. And we'll all be here. It's a Saturday, so we can all hang out. We don't have to take work off of, those of us that aren't working from home already and sneaking this stream in. I know some of you are doing that right now, but yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And I have really good confidence with better weather. Everything was going. Again, they've flown the Falcon 9 rocket 85 times or 84 times. This is the 85th launch. So it's not like they, as far as the mechanical systems go, they're very familiar with this rocket. SpaceX has gotten so good at launching that it's just this like regular, well-oiled machine where they're plugging it in, ready to go. Everything's just fueled up and awesome. I do actually have a few special guests that I was going to pop off to while I tear some stuff down. If you guys want me to keep the stream going, I could also push some of that off until Saturday, but I actually do need a break. Like I said, when I said I was going to pee my pants, it's a risk because, dude, I've been drinking way too much water, trying to stay hydrated, and I should probably go take care of that, right? So, Andrew, let me know if we have a guest. Otherwise, we'll just take a 10-minute break, and I'll come back and answer a few more questions, hang out with you guys for a little bit, and then I'm probably going to go to bed. Probably going to, sleep and eat. Sleep and eat sounds like a fun time to me. So I'm going to take a 10-minute break. I'll be back and close out and do a few more comments with you guys. But yeah, we'll do a few closing remarks, hang out for a little bit, and then I'm going to go to bed. Even though it's not even 5 o'clock yet. Jeez. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So I'll be right back, guys. We're going to take a quick little break. Stay with me. We'll hang out and we'll answer a few more of your questions and talk about what the options are on Saturday. So, all right. I'll be right back, guys. or not, I have no idea because nothing's working anymore. But I am just going to go ahead and wrap out here. I didn't learn anything on my journey to the bathroom. I'm going to double check here. Let me know. Hold up. 1 second. Okay, yeah, it looks like I am back. Okay, hi guys. So, yeah, reset for Saturday, 3 something local time, which would be what, 15 plus 4, 17 UTC or whatever, is that right? 13, 15, 19 UTC. That'd be 19 something UTC. So, yeah, unfortunately, we did not see a launch today. But the good news is the astronauts are safe. That's the most important thing. It's still hasn't. Maybe it'll soak in more, but it's still a little hard for me to grasp. I've seen so many rocket launches, but it's hard for me to grasp the fact that there are 2 humans on top of that rocket. 2 people I've talked to on top of that rocket. 2 people that I've stood 5 feet from and asked questions to are on top of that rocket. Like, that's pretty insane to me. And it's just kind of now hitting, maybe when I get more sleep. I'm really curious actually how my live stream will be on Saturday, how different it'll be. Because I think, honestly, I've been running on not even fumes. Like, I've been like eating the gas tank, I guess. If there's like fumes of a gas tank is like how you can propel an engine. And beyond that, it'd be like you're just absorbing and digesting the rust inside the gas tank. Why you have a gas tank that rusts, you probably should be using a different material. But yeah, that's what I've been living off of. I feel like I'm just like absolute zero. I think it is time for me to sleep. I think it is time for me to eat. And I will bring you guys a better live stream on Saturday. We will make some tweaks on our end, call up the company that we're working with on the production end of things. But everyone, please tell Andrew Taylor, say a thank you to him. He's been working all day. He got up before any of us to make sure the live stream was going and everything. Actually, I guess not before any of us, because I guess I've pretty much been up all day too. But he's been like working, sitting at console to run the live stream for you guys, making improvements as we go, winging it. But that just means on Saturday we're going to have an even better live stream for you guys. This would be the place to be and hang out, and I'll make sure that I have a better way to read your comments so that I don't miss any, because that really bugs me. I want to be able to hear from you guys. I want to be able to answer your questions, and I want to be able to interact with you. That's why you're watching me, and that's why you're not watching the official NASA version or the official SpaceX version. You're here because I can interact with you, and I can tell you what I know. And I don't know everything. I know far from everything, but I at least know enough to be dangerous and at least answer a handful of the questions that you might have. And that's what we're here for. We're here to hang out together. We're here to cheer on those people that are making this stuff happen. Give them something to realize that their hard work is being appreciated, their hard work is paying off, and that they're making a positive impact in the lives of everyone around the world. And I know that sounds really, really extra, like hippy-dippy, save the world type of thing, but honestly, this type of stuff makes a huge difference. There are people right now all around the world watching this. This is the day, this is the era where people can be on their phones. Yes, then they'll have phones even though they're in extreme poverty, but this could be the event that lets them think about, like, what if I studied really hard and became an aerospace engineer? Or what if I studied really hard and worked to become an astronaut? Or what if I worked on solving astrophysics? Or even just screw all that. You don't have to do that. Maybe it's just, I see someone doing something awesome. I want to do something awesome too. This might be that day when this happens, or even today, if this was still an inspiring day for people, which it still is nuts. Maybe it's that day where you're like, I want to do something bigger and better, and take what I'm doing to the next level. I don't care if it's, if you're an artist, if you're a, if you are a hairstylist and you want to be a better version of a hairstylist, like, do it. What are you waiting on? There's no reason to not put your all into everything. And that's what spaceflight does to me. Spaceflight reminds me that we're on the finest line of what's physically possible, like to leave our planet. It takes the most advanced machines in the world to be able to do that, and the smartest, most brilliant people to figure out the exact trajectories and plot courses and this is all only possible because people we're smart enough to do so for the past, 100 years to be able to figure all this stuff out. Really only about 60 years since humans have been flying, but, we've been learning about orbital mechanics and trying to figure out liquid-fueled rocket propellant for a long time now. And this is just, it's the culmination of the creativity and the power of the human species, and the ability to come together and do things that are way bigger than ourselves, and do things that are rooted in who we are as humans. Don't forget, I have this speech. I don't mean to go into the speech all the time, but I really do think this is a mentality. We are all, by nature, we're tribalistic. By nature, we tend to take teams, and right now, this day and age, people are taking teams more than they would ever. I swear, we're the most polarized the world has ever been between. Everything has become an issue. Everything has become, you're either this or you're this. Either you're overreacting to the pandemic and I can't believe you're wearing a mask, to I can't believe you're not wearing a mask, how dare you? And you're judging people based on that criteria and putting them into camps. I'm guilty of this too, and we're all guilty of political leanings, of course, and we're guilty of this or that or this or that. And it's incredibly black or white, and it's garbage. We should not be that way. And spaceflight is one of those the things that can bind us together as a species. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but the biggest takeaway is, when you think about, even on your own personal level, when you are sitting here and you're home, you are connected to your neighbors. You have no, unless, you might hate your neighbors. That's fair. But you might hate them because you know them, right? But in general, you have the sense of home. You have the sense of, this is my household, this is my neighborhood, I'm cozy here. But that next neighbor, that one over there, that neighborhood's bad. Everyone there is bad. And but then, if it was this city versus that city, it's no, our city's great, but that city, they're the poo-poo city, or whatever. That's literally a thing where I'm from, because we have a sewage treatment plant, so it's this whole thing about sewage. Anyway, then it can go to the next level of this state versus that state, or this region versus that region, or this country versus that country. We tend to do this as the human species. We tend to divide it out into this versus that. And spaceflight, when humans leave Earth, that is the one border we all share now as a human species, is literally our planet. Once we leave Earth, we're going and we're exploring together. It's no longer, this neighborhood, that neighborhood, this state, this country versus that country, whatever. It's humans versus the universe. And eventually, hopefully someday we can kumbaya with a bunch of aliens when we find them or whatever. But meanwhile, it's humans going and exploring. That isn't our nature. We originally didn't know how to cross small, streams because we couldn't swim. And then we learned how to swim. And then we learned how to make little boats to cross bigger streams and bigger rivers. And then we learned how to make bigger boats and cross bigger oceans and navigate the seas. And then all of a sudden we started learning how to fly and exploring our planet and going to the deepest parts of the ocean. This is just the next phase of humans exploring. This is in our DNA. This is who we are. We go out there, and now we're going and exploring space. Now, we've been doing this for almost 60 years, but at the same time, we've stalled. We've been stuck in low Earth orbit for over 30 some years now, since let me think about this. 1972 was the last deep space mission. So almost 50 years ago was the last time humans left the gravitational bonds of Earth completely. Not just getting into orbit, but actually leaving and orbiting another world. Was 1972, orbiting the moon. We've never left Earth's sphere of influence beyond the moon and Earth, the Earth system. We've never gone into sun-synchronous orbit, going out to other planets and other worlds. We're at that cusp, though. This really, trust me when I say this, it's different this time, because this time it's a different game. We're working, the whole thing is, this is always so cost prohibitive, and now it's becoming less cost prohibitive, and it's a race, and all these private companies are working on making it cheaper and more accessible. The more that happens, the more we explore, the more options we have to explore, the more we're going to get out there and go into space and become a truly multiplanetary species and change our course of our existence forever. Forever, forever, forever. And we're at the dawn of that era. I know this sounds like a gross overstatement, but trust me, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, we'll look back at this. We'll look back at this mission and we'll be like, yeah, that was the moment. So, sorry for the long-winded rant, but that's what I'm going to leave you with. I just want you guys to have some context for when we come back here on Saturday, and when we come back out for this launch, just remembering the importance of humans exploring and why this is all possible, why everyone's doing this, why it's such a big hubbub, and what it's all about. And let me tell you guys, this truly is just the beginning. The Artemis program going back to the moon is going to be huge. Like that is getting so real and so absolutely groundbreaking, and it'll be huge missions with huge vehicles, big rockets, really big rockets that can barely fit inside that building there. It's going to be incredible, guys, and I'm so thankful you guys are here to hang out with me and allow me to indulge you with just my ramblings and help you guys get excited about all this stuff, because it is incredible. So unfortunately we did not see a launch today, but I have a really good feeling we will for sure see one by the end of the weekend, because we have, again, 2 opportunities, Saturday and Sunday. They're both going to be right around 3 o'clock Eastern, which, again, doing the math, 15 o'clock plus 4, 19-ish UTC, around there. We will, Saturday and Sunday, there are 2 attempts, or an attempt each day. So, yeah, guys, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys again so much for your support, your financial support, whether it be through all the tips that you guys generously donated here, or through through Patreon. You guys are incredible. That really helps me do what I do, and also for shopping at shop.everydayastronaut.com. Don't forget to use coupon code LaunchDay if you want the Future Martian shirt. But you guys are amazing. I'm going to get some sleep. I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to come back even better with a better stream on Saturday, and we're going to see this launch, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm going to get my voice back, and maybe I won't get locked out of my car at the beginning of the stream. I don't know. That'd be fun, but that's what we get. That's why you guys come here. You come here for the antics, don't you? You can't help it. All right. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. There might be a weird outro, so good luck, Andrew. I'm just going to sit here and wave. Bye, guys.